You're listening to Cultureful. I'm your host, Jess Lynn. In this episode, I interview Segolene, one of my dear friends from college. She's a 35-year-old French-American Hollywood executive and entrepreneur who grew up in California and Texas and now lives in Los Angeles. She's joining us to chat about growing up in a French household and what that was like for school, friendship, dating, work, and more. Hi, Segolene. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining me today. Can you start by introducing yourself with your pronouns?
Yeah, pronouns are she, her.
And just anything else you want to share about yourself, like related to our topic today. We're going to be talking about your background, but also you can talk about anything else you would want to share with the audience, like if you're a dog lover, and I know other things about you, but anything else you want to share?
Yes, I'm a huge fan of surfing and playing tennis and being outdoors. That's pretty much me. Oh, and lots of traveling. So culture to me doesn't just stop at like who I am. I think it's also about engaging with other cultures around the world.
Definitely. As we dive in, let's start with setting the scene. Can you tell us about the community you grew up in and what your family is like? And just start with there.
So I was actually born in LA. My parents moved from France in their late 20s, early 30s. They were probably the first of French people really leaving France. That didn't really become a trend until much later. But politically, like it was a time where a lot of people were looking for opportunity elsewhere. America was like the American dream. That's what everyone wanted, and to like find success. So my parents just kind of took a risk and left everything and moved here. And me and my siblings were all born here. And then we were very much entrenched in the French community, going to French schools and French after school activities. And all of our friends were French. And I think part of that is also just when your parents don't know English that much, they also just tend to hang out with who they know and their community. So you naturally become part of that same circle. And then we did end up moving to Texas when I was about 10.
I didn't realize that whole 0 to 10 was in LA. So how big was the French community in LA at that point?
Not very big. Now it's like massive, but at the time, probably a couple hundreds, now a couple thousands of French people in LA.
And I didn't realize there were French schools in LA.
Oh, ton.
Were these private schools?
Yeah, they kind of have to be, I guess, because it's like you're teaching class in French. There's like 2 tracks that you have to take. When I was taking it, I was in the French track, but I know now it's changed. Some of the schools offer both math in French and English. You'll have both classes in both languages. But at the time, I was only learning math and French. So it got really complicated when I went to high school. That's when my parents switched me over. Because for the longest time, they really thought they were going to go back to France at some point. And so they were like, you might as well stay in the French school system, because that way when you move back, it'll be so much easier for you to just transfer over. But then high school was kind of like a pivotal moment, because they're like, if we're going to stay here, she's going to have to go to college in the US. And that system's different. You need grades. You need to show a transcript, and you need to show that you took the SATs and all of these exams. So if I didn't do that whole process, they started to get nervous. I switched over, I think, in 8th grade, right before high school.
Wow. What had you been doing in English at that point before you switched over?
Not much. I think only my extracurriculars were really in English.
Wow.
Tennis class was in English. Ballet was in English, but except English class where it was English literature and things like that. Math was in French, science was in French, history. We learned French history. We didn't even learn American history. So that also threw me. I did AP history in high school, and that was like combing through all of American history. And I was like, oh, I missed a lot of stuff.
Having to start from scratch in high school for US history. That sounds really intense.
That, and then even English classes, they would keep me after school so I could learn how to structure an essay, because I had no idea. I knew how to write sentences. I don't think any of it made sense in an actual essay format. So my English teacher would just keep me late after class and be like, we're rewriting all of this. It was crazy, but it was good. I actually enjoyed English class the most because of that.
And now you have 0 accent.
I did in 8th grade.
So background for the listeners, Segolene and I have been friends since college. We met in like an econ class or something, maybe.
International relations.
Oh, no, maybe it was international relations class. So I've been friends with you for over a decade, and I can't believe I didn't realize that you did all of school in French before 8th grade.
Most people don't know.
Because you have zero accent.
Yeah. But at the time, I'll tell you a little story. In 8th grade, people would say like there were some ducks in the pond that was like right outside our school. And I kept hearing dogs instead of ducks. And so I don't get it. And I was just very confused because to me, dogs and ducks sounded the same. Yeah, that was my level at the time. And everyone was like, your accent is so cute. And I was like, oh God.
When do you think your accent went away?
I mean, I think it probably happened pretty quickly. I think like 9th or 10th grade, it started to go away. Yeah. But it's just funny because both my parents still struggle. You know, they both have a very thick French accent. My mom, there's like words she still doesn't know. She just got by on the basics of like, I just needed to groceries and be able to take a doctor's appointment and speak to the plumber. She's not reading books in English. Like, that's too difficult.
I'm still processing that. I think because I've known you for so long and I was like, well, how did I... And it just blows my mind that we don't talk about these things, how much we can not know about people's backgrounds. What was the French community like in Texas when you guys moved? And what part of Texas were you guys living in?
We moved to Dallas, and there really wasn't much at the time. There was one that was called the Dallas International School, and that was all in French as well. So that's where my parents put us at first. But my siblings, actually, like the youngest two, were put in American schools right away. Mm-hmm. So they're the ones that speak French with an American accent. It's a reverse of what happened to me, right? They were in American schools so much younger that they didn't pick up French, really. If you don't actually make the effort of keeping it up and keeping it alive. We also speak it at home, and like anything that was kind of cultural would be French as well. So the songs and music we listen to and things like that. So when all your surroundings are in one language, it really feels kind of like a bubble.
So you went to an international school?
All the kids in there were French. It was really designed for kids whose parents were expats. So they would come maybe on a 2 or 3 year contract, sometimes 5, sometimes 10. They're working for a company, and then, you know they're going to go back. The whole point of these schools is that you maintain your levels so that when you go back, you're still in the French system. You still graduate and take the French tests that you need for college. It's like how you have the SATs. Yeah, so it's really designed to just kind of keep you on that track, which didn't make sense for me anymore.
Were there classmates from other parts of Francophone?
Nope. I think maybe we had one Segolene girl. She didn't stay very long. And that's the other thing that was hard, I think, going to these schools, is that people would leave. You become friends with people and then they're gone. That's kind of how I feel now, being in LA, because I still hang out with a bunch of French people, but they're not here to stay. They're all like, you're having a good time, working a job, like, this is great for my career, but I'm going to go back someday. So yeah, that's still something that I'm having to balance between American friends and French friends.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, sounds like in 8th grade, there was a big adjustment. And then now you still kind of have these two parts of your social life, right?
Yeah,
American
I do.
friends, French friends.
Yep.
In 8th grade, did you end up going to a public school?
No, it was still a private school. My parents, being like really religious, wanted to put us in very strict. Like, the boys went to the Jesuit, girls went to Ursuline. It's like, they're religious schools. Not that there's like Bible study and stuff like that, but they're, run by Jesuit monks at Jesuits, and it's run by Ursuline sisters at Ursuline. Thankfully, it was only like 5 years. Yeah.
What was it like? I mean, I went to a public school in LA, and so it's like hard for me to imagine what that's like.
I guess people say the thing about it being all girls is that at least you're focused and you're not distracted by boys.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that doesn't apply if you're a lesbian, because then you're just distracted all day.
Yeah,
like, obviously this is a very heteronormative way of thinking. But I mean, I honestly didn't mind it as much. I just think it made me like maybe socially less comfortable around things. Like, I think it would have been helpful. Although, like, to be fair, in the French school, it was always mixed. So it's not like I missed out on that completely, but I think if you're someone who's doing like pre-K through 12th grade and an all girls all the time, I feel like you probably miss out on a lot of like social interaction.
What was different culturally from, growing up, going to French schools?
I think it's just different because then you're exposed to American education, first of all, and how different it is. And then you have people from different backgrounds. Suddenly it's like not just French, like, now my peers are Asian or African American or Indian, whatever the background is. So it's like so much more diverse suddenly. So that was nice. I think I connected with a lot of Mexican friends. I guess because I spoke Spanish more now because like I wasn't speaking French as much. And then Spanish became like my second language in school. I would practice with them. And that kind of became the replacement French friends going through high school.
Did you notice anything different culturally from friend making with kids that are French when you were younger and then like spending time with Spanish speaking kids?
Well, I think you come into these schools feeling like an outsider, first of all, and you've not come up with them through middle school. You're not like BFFs with anyone. You're having to start over. But I think that's true of going to any new school. I don't think it necessarily is about coming from a French versus American school. I think like anyone who's had to change schools, you're having to make new friends, right? And it's like really hard to fit in. So you're always like trying to find a way to fit in. I think finding other people for whom like English was a hard language to learn, that's kind of who I gravitated towards because I was like, we have that in common. I don't think it was consciously. I think it was like subconsciously. It was like, we're both struggling here. Like,
yeah.
we could be friends.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's probably why, like, I think we connected as like foreigners in a way. Like, weirdly, I'm not I'm born here, so I shouldn't be able to say that. It's not like people when they were like 5 or something.
But still, like being from, do you identify as, when people talk about immigrant families, do you feel like you're from an immigrant family?
I do. Yeah, because my parents aren't from here.
Mm-hmm. And then do you feel like people don't see that when they see you because you're white and they think, oh, maybe you're just like, some other American who's not an immigrant?
And I think, thankfully, my name is foreign enough that people are like, oh, she's not from here. But if I were like Sarah or Mary or Katie or something local, they would be like, oh, you're not a foreigner, you're from here. It would be such a different, I think, I definitely find that with work, it's true. Like they don't get it that I'm thinking in another language. Maybe I don't know this American expression that everyone's using as I'm thinking of the French version of it.
Or like a reference or something.
Yeah. So it always takes me a minute. I feel like I can't, not impromptu, but like improvise sometimes in meetings or come up with smart stuff to say because I'm thinking about it in another language.
And you translate it first?
Kind of, yeah.
Huh, interesting. Even after like all this time.
I will second guess myself and I'll be like, is that really a thing we say in English? Did I translate that in my head? And then I'll have to look it up on Google.
Like, is this like a saying that other people will understand in English if I say it out loud? Yeah.
So I think it's a second guessing that goes on in your head where you're like, is this a thing? Did I say that right? Is that really a word in English? Or is that really an expression that people use? Maybe it's just me. So I will like second guess myself a lot.
Yeah.
Being culturally different in high school, that's a hard one to pinpoint. Obviously, the language barrier is the strongest. And then also not having the same references. I can give you a pretty good example of that one. I was doing so this was 9th grade, our first high school play, I guess, my first high school play. And it was a musical. So like everyone's having to sing these songs. And for some reason, these 2 girls were picking on me and they kept singing the song Smelly Cat from Friends.
Oh
no. And the thing is like, I didn't react to it because I had no idea what the Smelly Cat song was. I didn't know where it's from. I didn't know what it's about. And then they were like, you've never seen Friends? And I was like, I don't, what is Friends?
Oh
no. It was one of the situations where I don't know, what is Smelly Cat? What is this? Yeah.
It's just so random if you don't know if it's from a show. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt really random. I was like, did you guys come up with these words? Like,
What a strange song to come up with, right?
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay, guys, fine. Do what you got to do. I was surprisingly unaffected by it, but I still remember to this day because after that, I went home with like, I have to know what Friends is. What is Friends? And there, at the time there wasn't like internet yet. Like we barely had computers, so I was like, I don't know how I'm going to find out about Friends. I think eventually I found out through like one of my mom's friends that she was watching it one night, and she was like, "Oh yeah, this is the show Friends," and I was like, "Oh." Yeah. And only like years later did I figure out Smelly Cat was Phoebe's song.
Yeah. I sing it at random times. Exactly. I'm not going to sing it right now because this is recorded. I'm not going to subject everyone to that, but yeah.
I did. Uh, yeah. So, I mean, those are moments where you're like, I know I'm supposed to react to that, but I have no idea what that was. It just kind of goes over your head. Yeah.
So what does it feel like to feel like an immigrant, but then know that like everyone else doesn't see you as one, or that like a lot of people don't necessarily see you as one?
It feels like you're leading two lives. Like my ex would always think it's weird, but like I'll be talking to him in English, right? And then I would, because he's American, and suddenly a friend would call and I'd pick up and just be like mid conversation with him and then switch into French to answer her. And he'd be like, "What just happened? Are you talking to me?" It's like, no. But it really feels like there's that like you're living with like two brains or two different lives sometimes, and having to switch back and forth between the two. It it's exhausting, but it's also at the same time like I think is what makes life like really interesting and richer. I can travel to so many parts of the world where people speak French and just be able to interact with them. Same with Spanish, right? Like I can now go across most of Latin America and Spain and even sometimes get by in Portugal, just because once you have the basics of one language, I feel like it's not only easier to like learn the rest, but it's also these are languages that are used in so many places. I just think Americans are so focused on everyone knowing English. It's almost like there's no other world out there.
Yeah.
I think as a country, we're not very external facing. We're not really interested in learning what goes on beyond these borders. So I think that's what's missing to me is like another thing about French culture is very focused on the rest of the world. And it was used as the language of diplomacy for the longest time. Historically, we were really involved with everyone, but like, I don't know where that comes from, but I just know it's pretty widespread and it's one of like the official United Nations languages. It widens your horizons to have more than one language and more than one culture. Do you feel that way too?
Yeah, I definitely feel like that. But I'm Taiwanese American and I speak Mandarin and I speak Taiwanese mediumly well and some other languages too. But I've never had that experience of people here not seeing me as an immigrant. So that was interesting because I feel like, yeah, I live two different lives, but it's obvious to everybody involved.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think people are, I mean, sometimes, people I've dated have been like surprised that I'm fluent in Mandarin, but at the same time, not surprised, or more, people like kind of curious about like what my upbringing is like, or like these different things. And when they're talking about immigrants, looking at me like different situations because they can tell, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I wonder what it's like to not have that.
Yeah, because you're saying the average American's assumption of what American should be is white.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. So when you fit that,
yeah,
but you are from an immigrant family, then it's like, okay, but actually, guys,
yeah. It's
Yeah.
true. I think there's this expectation that you need to be on the same level as everyone, and you're still feeling like an outsider. And you still feel like you're not quite fitting in because you're not quite there. And I can't go back in time and like have watched all of Friends to have been like in the know.
Yeah. And because, it's different when you experience it at different times in your life too. And watching Friends now, it's not like watching Friends when you're a teenager, right? And
Right.
it's not like part of your formative
years where you were supposed to be cool and fitting in. Now it's like no one cares.
No one cares. Now probably people are just way more interested in like, the French stuff that you experienced growing up. Or I hope people are interested in it. I'm interested in it.
Yeah, I think people are definitely more open now. But I find that with work, it's still kind of this assumption that I should know better or should be a better public speaker or something like that. And that I should be comfortable in all these situations. And a lot of times I'm not. Like in my mind, I'm going to get called down and I'm going to humiliate myself because I don't know the word to this. It's still in the back of my mind, like still high school days of when things were like that. And so I feel like the same anxiety when I'm at work and having to give a presentation or be asked to like host a meeting. And I'm like, I shouldn't be here. Like I'm a fraud.
Like English is my second language, or
It
my
really
third
is.
language. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't look like it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm curious about you talking about how you have French friends, you have American friends. Do you interact or do different things with your French friends besides things happening in French? Like, is there anything else that's different and what things people, will show up for and stuff like that with French and American friends?
Yeah, like some cultural difference. And I don't know if this is just an LA thing, but I find that LA Americans are very flaky and won't show up to things. French people are like, if they say they're going to be there, like their word is the truth. They're going to give you their word. There's no shame around like, hey, I can't come to something, or they'll be more direct, I think, about everything. I mean, like, sorry, can't make it this time. Not like, maybe I'll try to show up and then don't show. Like there's none of that. You're either coming or you're not. So I think that's something that I've noticed culturally is very different. I think that could just be an LA thing.
Your American friends in LA are from LA?
A lot of them are, yeah.
Okay. As am I. But I try not to be flaky.
With time, you learn to make better friends and you get out the flakiness. But one of the things I've noticed is like, generally speaking, there's less of a need to, I think, keep like a good, like the Chinese way of keeping face. I feel like Americans do that too. Where it's like, I have to keep face and say that I like this person or pretend to like this person or pretend to attend this event so that I seem like I like them or I seem like I'm going to go, but then I'm not going to go. I'm going to fail. Or like, people invite you to things just because they feel like they have to. I feel like that's very American. French people won't bother. They'll just be like, I'm not friends with that person, not inviting them. Or like,
wow.
They'll say things to your face way more directly.
Even like hearing someone not being stuck in you have to invite someone because, they think they're your friend or like you have interacted with them in a friendly manner before, it still gives me anxiety to be like breaking those social norms.
I know. That's like, those things are like very, they're so different. It's like, there's no qualms about those social norms.
Because maybe that's not the social norm, right?
I feel like French people are just way more direct. It's like with dating, right? Like here, in which a lot of French or like even Europeans, I think at large, don't understand when they come here, the 3-date rule and having to wait. Like,
I think that's all crap. Just message the person if you are thinking of them and don't keep messaging if they don't respond. Yeah.
Coming back out here 5 years ago to LA after many, many years living in France and working there and being here and like on dates, not knowing where I stand, being like, this is first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Like, are we exclusive yet? Like, what's going on? Oh, you're seeing other people? Great. Like, back home, if you just want a one night stand, girls just say it. They're like, dude, this is going to be a one night stand. Again, after this, guys will say it too. And it's like a yes or, you have an actual open conversation about what you both want so that there's no taking you to dinner on 3 dates. Maybe I'll get to sleep with her. There's none of that. Like, I think it's very manipulative in a way to like put on this whole show, just hoping to like sleep with a girl or whatever, where it's like in Europe, you're just very open and direct.
Just like, do you want to sleep with me one night stand? Yes or no?
Or like regularly or whatever it is, like, or you actually want to go out with them. But you'll say from the get-go, I want to see you exclusively. And there's none of this trying to figure out what's in the other person's mind. So I kind of appreciate like the honesty that comes with like French culture being so direct in a way, because you know where you stand.
Have you tried that with people you're dating that are American, being that direct with them?
I usually ain't.
What is the reaction usually?
Well, this last guy I was dating, I don't date a lot, but with my ex, I was like, here's what I want, and I hope you're okay with it. And he actually was like, yeah, actually, this is great. We don't need to have a serious relationship. We can just have fun. It almost kind of took the stress out of it, I think, for him, of being like, I don't know, am I going to engage with this person for very long? I don't want to take it too seriously at first. I was like, no, I don't want that. That was like,
So now we're on the same page.
yeah, it actually was helpful. And then whenever we're not on the same page, like there were a couple times where he wanted to make it more official, wanted to be more serious about it. Like those are conversations we have openly, I think, instead of just like hiding it and like trying to figure it out later.
I'm the same way. I'm very direct.
See, yeah.
And I think that just saves time, especially like dating in my 30s, I was just like, okay, I don't have time for your, bull beep,
Are you beeping yourself out now?
Yeah, I am. Besides directness, is there anything else you notice it's like cultural differences?
Yeah, I think there's more of this idea that, so you were saying like, what do we do when we're hanging out other than doing things in French? But it's a lot about just time is more important than chasing money or chasing jobs or career. Like that's something that's culturally French. I think people notice it when they like go and visit France. People are out in cafes having a 3-hour lunch. We're known to be the country that doesn't work very hard, but I think there's just like the work-life balance is so much more important to people. They're more working so they can live and enjoy their life. And so I always feel like when I'm hanging out with French people, it's not like, we just ate, let's go. It's like, no, we're going to eat, but we're going to eat like, it's going to be a 5-hour meal and we're going to have wine. And then we might play like board games or like, conversations actually go until like midnight, 2 a.m. Like there's so much talking and just interacting and you could be doing nothing at all. I think that's where like I feel like the time is well spent and that's where the bonding happens.
It's just like a lot of focus on quality time.
It is. It's never about like who's got this title or this career. That's not things that people care about. They're looking to just have as much time as possible to have barbecues and have people over. And quality time is the best way to put it. So I think that's one of the things I've noticed where here you'll be rushed out of a restaurant as soon as you pay the bill and you're like, thank you, can you please free up this table? Bye. In France, like you can stay at a restaurant table all night if you want. No one's going to push you out the door. So that's something that I really enjoy.
And so then when you're hanging out with American friends, do you ever feel like, wow, that was unsatisfyingly short?
I do have that. Yeah, a lot. Also, like it's very surface level conversation sometimes. We don't ever go into like deep, emotional or like, I feel like people are not willing to really open up about what's going on with them. Whereas like friends people will dive right in and be like, so I saw my therapist last week and they said, it's like, we're very like dirty laundry for everyone. Like no one has really any hangups about stuff. So we'll open up. And I think in a weird way, that's what builds trust. You know what's going on with the other person. You start to genuinely care about them. And the same with you. If you're not opening up, then they're going to be like, almost kind of cut you out too. Like it's like, well, this person's not
being real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that explains a lot about our friendship and when we hang out. And a lot of times it is like, boom, 3 hours later, boom, 4 hours later.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And like, yeah, we, I love hanging out with you. We always talk about different heart stuff. Yeah. And like, we dive in quickly. I feel like that's how I am with a lot of friends. So maybe I'm part French and I just never knew it.
Maybe that's just like a thing that's in other cultures, but is not really dominant in the American culture. Like you don't.
For sure. But yeah, no, I'm definitely not accidentally French, even though it'd be really cool if I was.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
In a past life, maybe.
I'm trying to learn French, so Maybe. I've been on like the trying to learn French train for a long time. It's a slow moving train for me.
It's hard.
Yeah. It's fun though. I do like it. I know we're going to wrap up our time soon. What are some of the most common stereotypes that you face here of what people think when you say I'm French? What kind of stuff comes up?
A lot of people are like, oh, I love Paris. They think that's all France is. Which, that's fine. I get it. It's like the biggest city. It's the capital city. I used to get, this was like, obviously more as a teenager and in middle school and high school, people would be like, the French don't bathe. And they're always smelling.
Oh, why you have the smelly cat song sung at you? I'm pretty sure I bathe.
I know, right? And they're like, oh, French women don't shave. Like, I got all of those stereotypes and cliches thrown at me. Especially like the cheese jokes, like you must love cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sure. Yeah, I do.
Who doesn't love cheese?
It's like everyone loves cheese. But other than that, like also that the French don't fight wars, they just cave. I get jokes like that a lot, but nothing like usually positively received for the most part. I don't think people will really struggle with like they hear I'm French, but I don't think they hear it as like I'm a completely different language / culture, you know? Because there's probably so many similarities with like the food and like you said, like people being predominantly white, I think there's not that assumption of, oh, you're different or you're a foreigner or you don't understand what I'm saying. The assumption is that you should know English and you should be able to get by.
And then when you're in France, do people stereotype you as an American or do they just kind of accept you as French?
I don't have an accent working in French, but when I do say I'm, working in LA and I work in Hollywood and I grew up in the States, there is kind of like, ooh, that's cool kind of moment. Like people think it's really cool that you're from the US over there.
Interesting.
But it's got a different aura. I don't know, but it depends. Some people really hate Americans too.
Do you have that aura thing happen here where people are like, wow, she's French?
No one cares.
Really?
Yeah. It doesn't really.
Maybe I thought it was cool because I was always trying to learn French. I've been on the trying to learn French train. And then so it's like, ooh, she's French. How cool.
I think most people forget about that because they're not interacting with me in French. I think maybe if I had an accent, then people would be like, hey, Frenchie, But I don't. I think maybe I blended in too well.
So tell me about your name and where it comes from. Do people usually have a lot of questions about your name?
Here they do. In France, it's actually a really not a common name, sorry. It's just that it's been a long time and it's actually an older name, but it was made popular because we had a woman running for president not too long ago. She had the same first name. And so it became a hugely popular name because of that. She would have been the first female president, like that brought it back as a popular name, but it's definitely been around for a long time. And here it's like really hard for people to figure out because there's actually accents on the e's and I drop those where, in English, there's no accent. So I just write them in as regular e's, but where it's from, like originally, I think it's like Old German. So it came from Segolene and Sig meant like a siege or like a victory. And linda is like in Spanish, like linda is nice, smooth, soft. So it's just like a soft victory. I don't know.
How do you say it in French?
Segolene.
And how did your parents choose it?
They actually came up on it in a book that they were reading, going through baby names. They were like, we like this one.
Oh, it was in a baby name book.
Yeah, it was completely random.
So they didn't look up the meaning and, we like this meaning.
No. I had no idea what the meaning was. They hadn't seen it in a long time. And they were like, we're going to bring this back.
And now it's getting really brought back. So there's going to have a lot of other Segolenes running around very, very young.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, who knows? These days, people are picking such different names. Yeah, it made a little bit of a comeback. I don't think it will in the US ever take off, but I might be the only one for a long time.
Do you know anyone else personally that's called the same name?
Yeah, I actually know two or three of them, but obviously they're back and forth. So it's not the same. And there's versions of it. So there's some where it's like Solene, it's the G-O out of it. So it's not Segolene, it's
Mm.
Solene. Do you hear the difference?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, out here I got so many like people don't know how to say it. If it weren't for that, I think I would blend it a lot more. But I think because people don't know how to say my name, they're like, she's a foreigner.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only cue I have.
Um, okay. Penultimate question. What kind of food did you guys eat at home mostly? Like, what were some of your favorite dishes?
So my mom makes this dish that I love, but it was always like very French food, right? So like a lot of quiches but one thing that she makes, which I think is delicious, but no one's going to find this tasty. She'll make banana with ham and sprinkle it with cheese. And it's so good.
And it's put in the oven?
Yeah. It's something that she came up with when we were kids to make us eat food. So we love that stuff. We'll eat it at least every time I'm back. I have her make it. It's so good, but it's very random. People are like, why would you have bananas and ham? It's so good together. It's almost like plantains, like how you have plantains with meat. It's like really tasty.
And these are ripe bananas. It's like regular old ripe bananas stuck in the oven. I mean, I'm a fan of savory and sweet, and I'm a fan of cheese.
And again, cheese on everything.
But what kind of cheese? This is an important question for myself.
Oh, just like grated cheese.
Like mozzarella?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have to try this and report back.
It's not like some cheese, although I love some cheese that I have. But
what are some of the things that you like to cook for yourself these days? Do you find that you make things that are more French or other cuisines?
Oh, I actually love other cuisines. So I will make a lot of fish and make my own poke bowls. I'll go get all the individual ingredients and then mix them in a bowl. I love bowls. I think that's what I end up doing the most.
It's just fun to hear about what people grew up eating and then what they eat now.
I love Indian food a lot too, and like tikka masala and all that stuff. That's my favorite, or Japanese food. So I don't feel like I don't think I'm cooking French necessarily. Just mostly trying to eat healthy, I guess. That's more of a California thing. Everyone's out here trying to be like keto and gluten-free and all that.
Anything else you want to share with us before we wrap up?
Yeah. Back to saying how much richer life is, having another language and culture. And I think you'd probably agree with me, of expose you to other places in the world too. You connect and relate to other people better. Having that, I think it's helped us I don't know about you, but I think that's what guided us to international relations as a career path, as an interest, to travel and learn other languages, because we already have one kind of in our back pocket. And I think it just kind of opens up your mind to there's more out there. So I think I just wish more people would learn languages.
Yeah, I agree. I think learning languages is so much fun for the language learning, but also just all the doors it opens and all of the people that you get to talk to. Mostly I get excited about all the different people then you get to talk to. All these different places,
Yep.
And
I think it helps you not assume that everyone comes from the same place that you did, of knowing English perfectly or growing up there. We know what it is to struggle and different struggles, but they're still kind of related to being part of the immigrant journey, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for pointing that out. Was there anything else you wanted to share before we log off? A way for folks to get in contact with you if that's something that interests you?
I'll just quickly plug the business that I'm working on. It's more of a passion project, a pandemic project too. And it started when I was surfing as usual, but noticed how much more trash there was in the ocean since the pandemic. And it really upsets me that we're this planet of beautiful people, but we're not able to keep it clean. And so I launched this platform for gift ideas, but everything on the platform is eco-friendly, and every purchase plants a tree and gives back to a nonprofit that is working on making the planet cleaner. If there are even brands out there that are eco-friendly and sustainable, this is a marketplace. So any brand can list their products, and hopefully people use it just to even educate other people through gift giving. I find that's a great way to get people to find out about it and educate themselves on alternative products.
Yeah, it's a very gentle nudge. Like, hey, look at this awesome thing that I gave you. You can check it out here. So wait, what's the name of this platform?
It's right now called mygreengifts.com. I may rebrand, but there's also party supplies on there. So if anyone's looking to host an eco-friendly party without as much trash and like have more biodegradable and compostable materials, that's kind of what I was going for.
I love it. I'll definitely check it out for events that we host in the future. For my husband and I, we had the party to celebrate our courthouse ceremony last summer, and we tried to make it so that it was more eco-friendly in terms of plates and stuff like that and all the things we'd use at the party, but it was so difficult, and we had to like buy a whole bunch of stuff and then try to get everyone to put trash in a different, in certain ways, and it was like a lot of work. So I'm excited to check out your platform. I'm pretty sure it'll streamline the experience a lot, and that's something that we're definitely interested in. So yeah, thanks for establishing a space like that for other people to enjoy and to feel less guilty when they host parties as well as give gifts.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was like, not guilt people into doing it, obviously, but to at least take a small step is huge to get into a habit of being eco-conscious. And it could start small.
Definitely. And we're always trying to do that too. So I'm really glad that you shared that with us. Yeah, I really appreciate your being on the podcast and getting personal with us. Thanks so much for taking the time. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like this podcast, remember to follow us and share with your networks to help us grow. We are also on Instagram at @TheCultureful, where we look forward to your messages and ideas for future episodes. This episode was edited by Ruben Yana Ruben. I'm Jess Lynn. See you soon.